Saturday marks the second anniversary of 17.4 million people turning out to vote for Brexit. Around 6 hours after the polls closed in the referendum, it became obvious that Leave had won and Britain was heading for its biggest constitutional upheaval for nearly a century. That historic moment stunned politicians, pollsters and journalists across the country, and remains burned in their memory 2 years later. Although polls were pointing to a vote which was too close to call with any confidence, leading figures on either side of the Brexit battle anticipated a narrow Remain victory. Justine Greening, then the Education Secretary, had been dispatched by the government to the television studios, and although the results increasingly pointed to a Leave result, stuck to the line it was too early to call the result. It became massively real. I called Downing Street saying it's patently obvious that we have lost. A key advisor said, "You are right, Justine, we've lost." At that point it became massively real, she recalled. It was the most horrifying feeling. Labour's Diane Abbott, "I never went to bed. I went home, had a big mug of tea and decided to go out for a run on Wimbledon Common. I got home just in time to see David Cameron resign. It was a hugely significant 48 hours, personally and politically," for Ms. Greening, who tweeted the next day, "Today is a good day to say I'm in a happy same-sex relationship. I campaigned for stronger in, but sometimes you're better off out." Justine Greening knew the referendum had been lost after speaking to Downing Street across London. The Labour frontbencher, Diane Abbott, a fellow and campaigner, was listening in bed to her radio as the results came in. "I was about to turn it off when I had this dawning realization that the result wasn't going to be good. It was the most horrifying feeling." The former Liberal Democrat leader Lord Menzies Campbell, watching in his Edinburgh home, said, "I was astonished at the result. I went off to bed hoping and praying I would wake up and it had all been a bad dream." Brexiteer jubilation on the other side of the argument which split the nation. Brexiteers felt an equal sense of jubilation as their against the odds campaign prevailed. "I was like a schoolboy, so excited that I wasn't able to sleep properly." Tory MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was broadcasting in television studios in Elstree, said he had expected Leave to triumph, but that victory still tasted sweet. "I was about to go home, but they very kindly said to me that BBC presenter, David Dimbleby, is about to announce the result. Just wait and see." "I was absolutely thrilled. I thought it was the most wonderful news. I was like a schoolboy, so excited that I wasn't able to sleep properly." Fellow Brexiteer Jean Redwood agreed, "I always knew we were going to win. I knew the British people and how sensible they were." He learned the news in the BBC studio where he was on standby to comment on the result, claiming, "They wanted me because they expected my side to lose. I became emotional." By contrast, the UKIP MEP Patrick O'Flynn, who had been braced for a narrow Remain win, said, "As the night wore on and it seemed Leave was winning, I became emotional, reflecting on having pursued this cause for many years, losing several friends as a result and being labelled an extremist by some segments of the political class." He toasted the victory with a celebratory breakfast with UKIP ally Suzanne Evans in a Commons canteen. "The security and serving staff were all beaming, but the politicos and many of the media types were not," he added. It was also a jaw-dropping night for broadcasters and pollsters as British history took a far more decisive turn than at any general election. Polls, pointing to Remain. WNITV's political editor, Robert Peston, said, "I became 100% confident the Brexiters had won when, together with my ITV crew, I was in Brexit Central, the top of the Millbank Tower occupied by Nigel Farage and his gang, who were drinking for Britain." Robert Peston's emotions were, well, mixed. "My emotions were, well, mixed, and they included one very selfish thought: thank goodness I had recently made the switch from economic to political journalism." Andrew Hawkins, the chairman of the polling company Comrays, said, "Going to bed on the assumption of a Remain win seemed perfectly reasonable at around 1 a.m, so I got the news of a Leave victory from BBC 5 Live at about 6 in the morning. The Leave victory came as a big shock. Andrew Hawkins, comrades, in the last 24 hours before the vote we saw enthusiasm for Remain wobble a bit, and opinion in my Devon village had always been pro-Leave, but I was taken aback at its strength over those final few days. Nonetheless, I had expected Remain to win it by the skin of their teeth. After all, that was still what the poll numbers were telling us, so the Leave victory came as a big shock. Read more. Theresa May averts damaging Brexit defeat as Tories rebels accept last-minute compromise.